Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts. Think about what it actually takes to move thousands of people across international borders.
Right. It usually involves long lines, endless paperwork, and just a lot of patience.
Exactly. But what if that entire process took exactly 10 seconds?
Yeah.
So today we're bringing you a pretty comprehensive look at the operational realities of the summer cruise season and really the structural growth shaping the industry's future.
Yeah. We have three major stories to walk you through today. First, we're looking at Vancouver's Canada Place, where unprecedented passenger volumes are sort of colliding with some truly groundbreaking biometric processing milestones.
Right.
Second, we'll examine how Mother Nature and some mechanical limitations are forcing real-time, highly disruptive itinerary adjustments for Holland America lineup in Alaska.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And finally, we'll break down the final 6 cruise ships that are still on track for delivery in 2026. And those really reveal a massive divergence in how cruise lines are, building for the future.
So let's start right at the beginning of the passenger journey, the embarkation port. We are focusing on Vancouver, British Columbia.
Right.
The Port of Vancouver is currently managing just a massive influx of cruisers this summer. They're projecting that Canada Place will actually establish new monthly passenger records.
Yeah, specifically, they're anticipating 290,000 passengers passing through the downtown terminal in July alone.
Wow.
And they have a nearly identical forecast for August.
To put that in perspective for you, if that July projection holds, it will literally be the single busiest month in the terminal's 40 years of operation.
Right, and it's part of this much larger upward trajectory. If you look at the full year, Vancouver is heading toward an estimated 1.4 million passenger visits and 360 individual cruise calls in 2026.
That's huge.
It is. That's a 30% increase over the volumes they saw back in 2019. And it easily surpasses the previous record that was just set in 2024, which was 1.32 million passengers and 329 calls.
And the logistics of handling that kind of volume, they become much more intense when you look at the terminal infrastructure itself. Because remember, Ballantine Pier has been closed to cruise traffic since 2014.
Exactly.
So because of that closure, this single 3-berth facility at Canada Place is solely responsible for handling every single city center cruise passenger in Vancouver.
Yeah, and processing over 1 million people through just 3 berths, it requires serious technological integration, especially, when it comes to customs and border clearance.
Right, which brings us back to that 10-second crossing I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the terminal implemented facial biometric technology 2 years ago, and on June 8th of this year, the port actually processed its 1 millionth passenger using this biometric system.
The efficiency gains here are just staggering. According to Chance McKee, who is the senior account representative at the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority, the average U.S. Customs and Border Protection processing time has plummeted by roughly 94%.
94%. Yeah.
The clearance process dropped from a standard 2 to 3 minutes per passenger all the way down to about 10 seconds.
That is wild.
Right. Because of that, your overall embarkation process, from walking into the terminal to stepping foot on the ship, has been reduced from roughly 2 hours down to about 30 minutes.
And the mechanics of how they handle the peak rush are pretty fascinating. The heaviest traffic at Canada Place typically hits between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Right, when everyone is showing up.
Exactly. That's when you commonly have 3 large vessels in port at the exact same time. During that 2-hour window, the terminal is processing about 1,000 passengers every hour. Wow. So to manage this, Canada Place installed 12 biometric tables. But here is the critical detail. Port officials state they typically only need to use 4 of those stations to maintain that throughput on peak days.
So they have massive built-in overhead capacity.
Right.
They are hitting record numbers and barely tapping a third of their biometric infrastructure. And they are backing that up with physical upgrades, too.
Yeah, the port's 2026 update notes they've installed 10 new data connection points beyond Hall C for check-in, and they're putting in 2 new elevators between the luggage drop-off area on parking level 2 and the ground level just to keep people moving.
But, beyond the terminal walls, there is a massive economic footprint attached to this volume. According to the Pacific Rim Cruise Association's 2025 Cruise Passenger Survey, more than 75% of cruise passengers spend time in Vancouver before or after their sailing.
And that's up from 70% in 2023.
Yeah, and they're spending real money. The average local spending per cruise passenger has climbed to $1,144 on things like hotels, restaurants, and tours.
Right, so when you zoom out, each individual cruise ship visit to Canada Place injects roughly $3 million into the local economy, heavily driven by the cruise lines buying from local vendors between sailings, of course.
But bringing that many ships into a localized ecosystem has consequences, which is why the Port Authority is leaning heavily into environmental management.
Yeah, they're continuing voluntary ship slowdowns in the Salish Sea. These are specifically designed to reduce underwater noise and protect at-risk whale populations, and cruise ships are actively participating.
Right. The port also uses its Blue Circle Awards to recognize environmental compliance. They launched these back in 2009 for the Eco Action and Energy Action programs, which target air emissions and energy conservation.
So Disney Cruise Line, for example, gets a Blue Circle Award every single year at home ports there. Holland America Line currently holds 12.
Wow.
And Princess Cruises holds 16 awards, notably including a special mention this year for their air lubrication systems.
Right, and for those unfamiliar, air lubrication literally pumps a carpet of microbubbles under the ship's hull to reduce friction, which, slashes fuel consumption.
Yeah, it's pretty clever. And Princess is actually a major driver of Vancouver summer traffic. Gus Antorcha, the president of Princess Cruises, noted their 2026 Alaska season will be their largest ever. They'll have 7 ships visiting Vancouver, including the new Star Princess.
And we're also seeing Mark Tamas, president of Seabourn, bringing the Seabourn Encore to sail from the city for the first time.
Yeah, and we also just saw a major luxury milestone on June 8th. The Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection's Luminara made its first call at Canada Place.
Oh, right.
It's the first time an ultra-luxury cruise line has visited the terminal. They embarked guests, restocked provisions, and headed north for the first of 9 scheduled 2026 calls.
But, here is where we really need to look at the bigger picture. We just talked about how incredibly efficient this terminal is, moving thousands of people in 30 minutes. But the Port Authority is currently putting out explicit warnings to Canada Place visitors to plan for extreme downtown crowds and traffic through July 19th.
Right, because of the FIFA World Cup festivities.
Exactly. It creates this stark operational clash. You have engineered this frictionless 30-minute terminal experience, but the moment those passengers step outside, they hit a wall of gridlock.
Yeah, moving thousands of people rapidly through a building is a triumph of logistics, but local transit and hospitality infrastructure cannot always absorb that sudden dump of passengers, especially during dual peak events like an international sporting tournament.
Right. It's a bottleneck that terminal technology simply cannot fix.
Exactly.
And speaking of bottlenecks, let's look at what happens when these incredibly efficient embarkations give way to the realities of navigating the open water. We're turning to recent notices issued by Holland America Line altering 2026 Alaska itineraries for the Zaandam.
Right. So the Zaandam is a 61,396 gross ton vessel. She was built in 2000 and carries 1,837 passengers. The ship is spending most of the season sailing 7-night Alaska round trips from Vancouver through the Inside Passage.
Okay.
But Holland America has just adjusted several departures, which affects over 5,000 booked guests. The stated reasons provided to these guests are, quote, operating speeds and tidal constraints.
So let's get specific on what is actually changing for you if you're booked on this.
Sure.
For the July 15th departure, they're delaying the departure from Vancouver. They are entirely removing the Fjord service call and arriving later into Juneau.
And the August 19th sailing is facing similar cuts. Guests are told they will no longer have a service call to Tracy Arm Inlet.
Right.
Now, for some context, Holland America had previously dropped Tracy Arm from the 2026 program due to unstable geological conditions in the fjord, and they substituted Endicott Arm.
Oh, okay.
But these new notices do not clarify if Endicott Arm is also being dropped from these specific sailings, or if the line is just restating the previous Tracy Arm cancellation.
That's a bit confusing for passengers.
Yeah, it is. Also, on that August 19th sailing, the ship will be 30 minutes late getting into Juneau, arriving at 2 p.m., and looking ahead to August 24th, the Ketchikan departure has been bumped up an hour early to 6 p.m.
But the most disruptive change might be the September 16th cruise. So this is an 18-night season-ending voyage. On this date, the Zaandam will depart Vancouver 1 full hour earlier than originally scheduled. Ouch. Yeah. Because of this, Holland America has told guests flying into Vancouver on embarkation day they must arrive no later than 10 a.m. local time.
Wow.
If you're a passenger, that is a massive headache. You're likely scrambling to rebook flights or fly in a day early just to make that tight morning window.
And the reason for that early departure comes down to a major navigational rerouting. For that September 16th sailing, the Zaandam is now scheduled to transit the Inside Passage instead of Seymour Narrows. To understand why this is happening, you really have to understand the geography. Seymour Narrows is a 5-kilometer section of Discovery Passage. It basically acts like a funnel for the ocean, creating massive currents that can reach up to 15 knots.
Yeah, and for anyone who isn't a mariner, a 15-knot current is basically a river rushing at 17 miles per hour. Trying to steer a 61,000-ton cruise ship through it's like trying to parallel park a skyscraper on a sheet of ice.
Right.
You just cannot fight that current safely.
Exactly. Because of that extreme current, safe transits depend entirely on what is called slack water timing.
Right.
Slack water is the brief window, sometimes just 20 or 30 minutes, when the tide is shifting and the water goes perfectly still. You have to hit that exact window to pass safely.
Wow, that's tight.
Yeah, and because they're skipping Seymour Narrows, the scenic cruising sequence is being scrambled. Cruising around Princess Royal Island, Grenville Channel, and the Great Bear Rainforest has been moved earlier in the voyage, which obviously forces all the port times to shift.
And Holland America says any shore excursions booked directly through them will be automatically rescheduled or refunded if they can't be moved.
But here's where we need to connect some dots regarding the vessel's operational history.
Yeah.
Earlier in this very season, the Zaandam experienced propulsion problems. Those mechanical issues actually disrupted the June 3rd and Juneteenth cruises.
Right. And Holland America has only cited operating speeds and tidal windows in their notices. They've not publicly linked these newly announced itinerary changes to those earlier propulsion issues. But, from an analytical standpoint, it raises a critical question.
Absolutely. When a ship has even a slight propulsion issue, it loses a knot or two off its absolute top speed.
Right. And if you cannot sprint at maximum speed between ports, you cannot guarantee you'll reach Seymour Narrows precisely in time for that brief slack water window.
Exactly. If you miss the window, you can't pass. So it is highly likely that a previous mechanical limitation is the underlying factor dictating these strict speed and tidal constraints.
Yeah, that makes sense. And importantly, the line has not publicly identified every single Zaandam departure that might eventually be affected by these adjustments.
So moving from the operational challenges of a vessel built in 2000, we turn to the ships that are dictating the industry's future. Let's review the final shipbuilding schedule for the year.
Okay.
There are 6 cruise ships remaining on track for delivery before the end of 2026.
And when these 6 vessels are handed over, it'll cap off a 13-ship new build year for the global industry, since 7 vessels have already entered service. According to the Cruise Industry News Global Order Book, this entire 2026 class totals roughly 27,000 berths.
And the statistical averages of this class tell a very clear story about where the industry is putting its capital.
Yeah.
The average ship size entering the market this year is 94,715 gross tons, carrying an average of 2,085 guests. The estimated value of the 2026 class is a staggering $9.5 billion.
Wow.
Overall, this single year represents a 9% increase in global cruise passenger capacity, which is the largest annual gain in the current order book cycle.
Okay, let's detail exactly what is coming. Next up is Explora Journeys Explora III, finishing construction at Fincantieri in Italy for a summer delivery. It's 72,810 gross tons with 463 all-suite accommodations and a capacity of 922 guests.
Nice.
Significantly, this is the first LNG-powered vessel in the Explora fleet, using liquefied natural gas as a transitional fuel to lower immediate emissions.
Then you look at the massive contemporary market. MSC Cruises is taking delivery of the MSC World Asia in the 4th quarter.
That's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Built at Chantier de l'Atlantique in France, this is a true megaship with the capacity of over 6,700 passengers. It will debut in the Mediterranean before heading to Asia, and the design is heavily tailored to that market, highlighted by an Asia-themed world promenade featuring a 12-meter LED dragon.
Sticking with the Asian market, Adora Cruises is launching the Adora Flora City. It's currently being built in China at CSSC. This is a massive milestone for domestic manufacturing, as it's China's second domestically built large cruise ship. The specs are huge. 141,900 gross tons, 341 meters in length, with 2,130 staterooms holding up to 5,232 passengers. The ship floated out in March, started sea trials in May, and is due late in 2026.
And over in the luxury sector, Regent Seven Seas Cruises will take the Seven Seas Prestige from Fincantieri in the fourth quarter. It is 76,550 gross tons, holding 822 guests and 630 crew across 411 suites.
Wow, that ratio is wild.
It is. This is Regent's first new ship class in a decade, and the math here is really fascinating. The vessel is 40% larger than Regent's next largest ship, but it only carries 10% more passengers.
See, that is the ultimate luxury metric. They're not using that extra 40% of steel to pack in more ticket revenue.
Nope.
They're using it to drastically increase the space-to-guest ratio, meaning much larger suites and sprawling public areas are the exact same amount of people.
Exactly. On the complete opposite end of the size spectrum, Antarctica 21 is awaiting the Magellan Discoverer. This is the only expedition vessel in the remaining 2026 group.
Okay.
Built at Asinov in Chile, it's a 94-meter ship carrying just 76 guests for Antarctic air cruises or 96 on standard sea voyages, backed by 67 crew. And it is a PC-6 ice-strengthened ship.
Wait, what does PC-6 actually mean in that context?
Basically, it means the hull is specifically engineered to safely navigate through medium first-year ice during the summer and autumn months. It is built to grind through the Antarctic safely. Finally, Fincantieri's fourth quarter schedule includes the Viking Libra. At 998 guests, this is a massive technological leap. It is billed as the world's first hydrogen-powered cruise ship.
Wait, how exactly does that work? Because hydrogen isn't something you just pump into a standard marine engine.
Right, exactly. Its hybrid system uses liquefied hydrogen combined with polymer electrolyte membrane fuel cells. Basically, these fuel cells take the liquid hydrogen and convert it directly into electrical power through a chemical reaction, producing up to 6 megawatts of power with 0 greenhouse gas emissions.
Wow.
However, Viking has not yet publicly released the details on their tank volume or how frequently the ship will need to refuel.
Interesting. Just to round out the 2026 picture for you, we should note the 7 ships already delivered this year. That's Royal Caribbean's Legend of the Seas, Norwegian Cruise Lines, Norwegian Luna, Four Seasons 8, Mein Schifflo, Viking Mira, OE Corinthian, and Emerald Kaya.
And looking ahead, there are 15 more ships scheduled for 2027.
Yeah, when you look at this current wave of deliveries, you see a total divergence in shipbuilding strategies. On one side, you have the sheer volume of contemporary megaships, like the 6,700-passenger MSC World Asia.
Right.
On the other side, you have boutique, highly specialized investments like the Viking Libra requiring liquid hydrogen. And that divergence creates a massive operational headache for ports. Port authorities are suddenly being asked to do 2 wildly different things at once. They have to engineer terminals capable of moving nearly 7,000 people and their luggage off a single ship in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're being asked to provide highly specialized infrastructure, like shore power connections and facilities capable of safely storing and pumping alternative fuels like liquefied hydrogen.
Which brings us to a final structural consideration for you regarding the industry's immediate future. We started today looking at the incredible high-efficiency biometric systems at Vancouver's Canada Place.
Right.
We looked at how tight operational margins are in Alaska, and we just outlined a 9% surge in global passenger capacity hitting the water this year alone.
The ultimate question the industry has to answer is whether regional port infrastructure around the globe can realistically scale fast enough. Can they secure the capital investment required to accommodate both the overwhelming human volume of the new megaships and the complex technical fuel requirements of the specialized vessels coming online?
It's a race between the shipbuilders and the ports, and right now, the ships are arriving faster than the concrete can be poured.
Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.